Huntsville's drama has gotten out of control. What started out as another glamorous reunion for love and marriage, Huntsville has devolved into a catastrophe that has the potential to ruin families, careers, and reputations. The show's self-assured mainstay, Martell Holt, is currently on the verge of a public breakdown. Multiple cameras captured a single outburst on set, which set off a series of events that could destroy everything he's worked so hard to create, including media leaks, cast fractures, and an explosive Guardian investigation. Nobody anticipated it. Not the producers, not Melody, not even the fans who believed Martell had mastered self-control. However, years of pressure simmered behind his polished exterior's tension, public scrutiny, and emotional exhaustion. When the Guardian's investigative team began digging into his real estate empire, the facade cracked wide open. The Love and Marriage, Huntsville cast assembled for a customary reunion at their production facility on a clear, cloudy morning in Atlanta. Martell Holt, who is often calm and collected and always plays the role of the seasoned businessman and spouse, sat quietly among them, hardly paying attention to the conversation going on around him. For weeks there had been rumors of a leak, a report, and an impending Guardian expose. It had started innocently. A whistleblower at Martell's Huntsville real estate development company had tipped off the Guardian. They asserted that Martell had engaged in dubious activities, including unreported loans, partner disagreements, and hush money-style payouts as a result of pressure to preserve the public perception of the power couple. Using the show to further his legacy, Martell has long taken satisfaction in projecting the image of the astute, morally upright investor. However, the lines were hazy behind the cameras. Production staff worried. Executives whispered in the hallway about brand safety. The network had recently invested heavily in the Huntsville spinoff, and a scandal of this magnitude could derail not only Martell's storyline, but the entire next season. Martell knew it too. The night before the reunion, he had been awake, staring at his phone, the draft of the Guardian story popping up repeatedly in dark mode. He couldn't sleep. Martell lowered his head at the start of the meeting. He curtly said, "I've got this," in response to some inquiries regarding strategy from his wife, Melody Holt. After tapping his shoulder, the production liaison gave him a sealed envelope containing the first draft of the season's filming schedule paperwork. Martell opened it, looked it over, and put it away silently. For a time, his face was blank as he gazed up. Suddenly, a camera caught him off guard. He rose from his chair, his voice sharp. "We're done playing these games." It wasn't directed at the crew. It was directed at everyone in the room. He slammed his fist on the table. Heads turned. Silence fell. The cameras kept rolling. The moment that was never supposed to leak just did. After leaving the conference room, Martell paced the corridor while typing frantically on his phone. He had just received a right to respond notification from The Guardian, which gave him 2 hours to examine their article or risk being published. He was enraged. He felt that this was the worst kind of corporate journalism designed to ruin his name. But he secretly felt vulnerable. He was not on his guard. Following him, Melody returned to the studio. "What's happening?" she said quietly. With wide eyes, Martell turned to look at her. His voice was low as he replied, "They're gunning for me. Everything they have, the bank records, the statements, the paperwork, everything." Melody's face went white. She understood that this was not your average after-party spill. Everything could end because of this. In the meantime, an emergency meeting was convened by the executive producer of the project. The actors were informed that filming will be temporarily halted. They needed to refocus because Martell's outburst had altered the atmosphere. In the green room, Martell sat by himself with old files, emails, contracts, and notes spread out on the table. Anything at all was what he attempted to save, unaware of the impending storm. His 3 children were upstairs getting their hair and makeup done. Social media was ablaze as the day went on. Influencers and bloggers saw that Martell had left the gathering. When he slammed the table, the screenshot went viral. "Good riddance," and "What's he hiding?" were among the comments. "Reality star's financial empire under scrutiny" was the headline that flashed on the Guardian report. Martell's public relations team hurried. Melody and Martell sat in their opulent Atlanta condo that night. The lights were dim. Despite not drinking, Martell carried a glass of scotch. The topic of damage management came up. Melody remarked, "We must assure them that we are okay." "But we aren't too aware of that." Martell gazed at his beverage. "It won't be just me if this goes public. It's you. It's the females. It's everything that I created." Martell had a meeting with a lawyer the following morning. He discovered that the Guardian had obtained internal documents, a confidential audit, and affidavits from former colleagues. Significant unexplained transfers from the company's escrow account were mentioned in the auditor's note. Martell's mouth fell open. He became aware that a thorough inquiry was underway. His initial response was to deflect and deny. However, what was his contingency plan? Already established. He called on a few cast members. It was time to mobilize supporters and secure the story on set. Producers attempted to spin the moment. They scripted a moment of clarity from Martell, a confession to the viewers, a redemptive arc. But Martell balked. He refused to film the scene. "I'm not giving them entertainment from my humiliation," he told them. The set froze. The network had to decide: push him out or stand by him that night. Melody confronted him in private. "If you walk away now, you take everyone with you." She meant the show, the crew, the network's future seasons. But Martell's pride was wounded. He saw himself shrinking. He saw his empire crumbling. He felt betrayed by the very platform that made him famous, and he lashed out. The Guardian published the story. The headline: "Reality star Martell Holt under financial fire, associates speak, records reveal." Overnight, the headlines turned from glamour to scandal. Tabloids dissected every aspect of his life assets: marriage, business. Social media influencers criticized his integrity. His name trended for the wrong reason. "We are cognizant of the circumstances surrounding Martell Holt and are keeping an eye on developments." The network said in a statement. Despite being neutral, the subtext distance was obvious. Advertisers contacted us regarding sponsorships. Agents were contacted by the cast. The pressure on Martell increased. Martell approached the production studio for a pre-filming meeting in one particularly stressful scenario. The energy was icy. Coworkers did not look into his eye. He tried to shrug and smile. However, the public, the brand, and the program all exerted pressure. With a start, he said, "Are we filming or are we burying me alive for ratings?" The room became silently uneasy. No one knew if the footage that the cameras captured would be broadcast. Melody observed at a distance. She struggled to balance self-preservation with loyalty. Her persona was entwined with his: reality star, business partner, and devoted wife. She now had to choose between staying and leaving. She had a feeling that Martell's tantrum would be their last. Legal files began to leak as the weeks went by. Martell's business received a subpoena. Reporters were asked to remain anonymous when speaking with former partners. The story changed. The endearing investor was suddenly the one being blamed. Every project he worked on was questioned by the public, once praised for revival. His real estate endeavors in Huntsville were now criticized for their shady funding. In an emotional moment on set, producers asked Martell to apologize on camera for the outburst, for the disruption. He refused. He said, "I won't apologize for being human. I won't kneel to save an image I never asked to buy." The decision stunned the network. They had to figure out their next move: fire him, recast, edit around him, or let the drama play out. Asterisk rumors circulated that Martell was negotiating a payout exit clause from the show. Confidentiality agreement, non-disparagement. Behind closed doors, executives weighed the cost. Keep Martell and risk association with scandal, or cut ties and face legal talent fallout. Martell himself floated the idea of going independent, leaving the show for a new platform. But the risk was huge. Meanwhile, Melody quietly began meeting with her own counsel. She asked questions about separation, about safeguarding her brand separate from his mess. She realized if Martell collapses, her world collapses too. She needed a contingency. Friends advised her, "Don't be the woman dragged down by the man's mistakes." She nodded, but the emotional bond made it complicated. Asterisk on social media, Martell's followers dropped. His posts about building legacies felt hollow. Memes mocked his meltdown. Influencers called him out. He responded with a cryptic post, "Truth only matters when you're ready to hear it." It increased speculation, but it did little to restore faith. The damage deepened. Asterisk, then the network announced filming for season 10 would be delayed until further notice. The cast gathered for a meeting where the showrunner said, "We'll resume when it's safe for all parties." For Martell, that was a blow. Not only his career, but his identity was on hold. He sat in the silence thinking, on hold. He sat in the silence thinking, "What have I done?" In the quiet of his home, Martell made a decision. He gathered his daughters and told them, "We're going through a storm. But storms pass." He looked at Melody. "I want you to rebuild. Even if I fail, I don't want you to." It was both strength and surrender in the same breath. She nodded, holding back tears. The Guardian followed up with a second piece. Wife of reality star files for business separation amid scandal. It speculated that Melody was distancing herself. Martell felt it like a gut punch publicly, privately. He watched the wave breaking around him, powerless to stop. Production inside the show braced for an exit or restructure conversation. Martell was told, "You either cooperate or we move on without you." He thought of walking away, but the thought of disappearing from national television terrified him just as much as staying. He found himself trapped between the platform that made him and the scandal that may end him. Then one night, a tape surfaced and edited footage of Martell's outburst. Backstage, cameras rolling, his voice raised, his frustration raw. It was leaked to social media by an anonymous source within the studio. The footage went viral. The network scrambled to issue takedowns, but the damage was done. Martell's outburst wasn't a rumor, it was a public spectacle. Martell's PR team proposed an image rehab campaign. Confession, charity, new project. But Martell balked again. He felt the campaign was disingenuous. And in truth, he wasn't ready. He felt betrayed, exposed, angry. He kept the footage playing over in his mind. The moment he lost control, the moment his empire might collapse, then came the ultimatum. Sign the new contract for season 10, claiming no wrongdoing or exit the show. The contract included a clause: public apology, cooperation with investigations, release of all business records. Martell read it and felt a chill. Signing would be surrender. Refusing would be professional suicide. He looked at Melody. She looked back with quiet tears. In the final paragraph of this chapter, Martell stood in front of the studio doors one last time. Camera crews waiting, flashbulbs popping. He raised his head, walked in with purpose, either ready to fight or to fall. The world watched. The Guardian's name blinked on his phone. His daughters watched from the side. Melody followed behind. The door closed. The cameras turned on. Whether this was the beginning of redemption or the prelude to endgame, only time would tell, but one thing was certain. Martell Holt's outburst had changed everything, and the Guardian report might just end it all for him. After a few weeks, the air in Huntsville felt more dense than before. The media frenzy changed rather than subsided. Every day, new information was leaked by a source close to production on every blog, gossip, website, and reality show. The glitzy perception of Martell as a prosperous, orderly man has vanished. People were unable to turn away from him now that he was the face of disaster. Other networks' rival reality stars began to make subtle jabs at him for doing too much for cameras. The Guardian had more work to do. The third chapter, which concentrated on alleged intimidation tactics employed by Martell's crew to quiet former partners, was released. Voice recordings and anonymous text messages that alluded to threats and manipulation were included in the study. It didn't matter anymore if it was accurate or overstated. The public had made up its mind. The empire had collapsed. Banks allegedly stopped several accounts as they conducted an inquiry. And even nearby companies started to distance themselves from his projects. One late night, Martell visited the construction site of one of his unfinished developments. The cold air bit at his face as he walked through the skeletal frame of what was supposed to be his next big success. The cameras weren't there. The lights weren't rolling. Just silence. He stood there, looking at the steel beams against the moonlight, and whispered, "Maybe this is where I start over." Whether that meant rebuilding or walking away forever, no one knew. But one thing was certain: the storm that began with an outburst had rewritten the legacy of Martell Holt forever. And that's where we leave it tonight. Martell Holt's fall from grace serves as a reminder that in reality television, the cameras never really stop rolling even when the lights go out. Fame can build you up, but it can also break you in ways the world will never fully see. This has been another deep dive into love and marriage. Huntsville Season 10. Don't forget, everything you see is entertainment. Everything you hear is speculation, and every story has two sides waiting to be told. Stay tuned, because Huntsville's drama is far from over. The next chapter promises secrets, betrayals, and maybe even redemption. Until next time, this is Fame Heat, where the truth always burns a little hotter. Always burns a little hotter.